All right, Shalom. First off, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Hashem, Yahweh Shah, Bahashem, Rakah Kodash. I want to give double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone. And Shalom and salute to the hopefully elect. So found it quite interesting that I was just doing a simple AI, a Google search, AI search. And I put because I came across what made me just look it up is because I came across a Star Wars picture, and I remember the elders and apostles going into it on how a lot of these directors, these movie, and I picked up on it as well. You know, they had to read the Bible, and a lot of stories they are parallel to the scriptures. You know, I mean, because the Holy Bible is one of the greatest stories ever. You know, they really scrolls put together through the Spirit of the Lord. So it's a book, but it's also a lot of text that's put together, and it's a book of records. All right, but it's a book of holy records because one prophet or a scribe might have wrote this book, then the next prophet wrote that book, but they all were in line with each other. You know, the Bible is the only book that doesn't contradict itself if you know what it's really, if you can really break it down like we can, starting with the elders and apostles on down. But I found it quite interesting, so I'm gonna go ahead and read this. I said the question I asked. I said, "Is Star Wars about Jacob and Esau?" And it says Star Wars is not direct retelling of the biblical story of Jacob and Esau, but it is heavily influenced by biblical, mythological, and art, archetypal, uh, archetypal themes that feature similar narratives. So I should have just wrote, "Is Star Wars about similar to the Bible?" But let's just read this while we got it, and I'm not going to make this too long, but it says, while George Lucas did not set out to create a strictly religious allegory, drawing inspirations from sources like Joseph Campbell's The Hero with a Thousand Faces, samurai films, and Flash and Gordon, several parallels exist. So it is similar, you know. And when you know the story of Star Wars, you can understand that it's stories like they had to snatch from out the Bible, because where else, you know? But let's go into it. So it says, here is how the comparison to Jacob and Esau fits within Star Wars universe. It says sibling family conflict. It said similar to the rival between Jacob and Esau, which was fueled by parental favoritism and led to a profound rift. Star Wars revolves around family dynamics, specifically the tragedy of the Skywalker line. I remember I was reading some information, and what's this guy Rob Lee from he's the writer of X-Men and a whole bunch of other comics. He passed a little while back, but he openly he said this story. He said the civil rights movement with Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, that was about X-Men. And I heard him say that out of his mouth. I could pull it up. I'm gonna pull it up around when I finish reading this. I'm gonna pull that up, just to back up with what I say. But so it says the tragedy of the Skywalker line. It says the chosen one's birthright. It says Jacob stole the birthright from Esau, and through the Spirit it was already set up because the Lord already said the elders so serve the younger. So the Lord just let that play out, for it to fit prophecy, you know. But it says Jacob stole the birthright from Esau, becoming the leader of the tribe. In Star Wars, this mirrors the concept of a chosen one and the legacy of the Force, which Anakin and later Luke inherit or fight over. Right. Here it is right here. It says Jedi and Yehudi. Right. It says some interpretations suggest thematic connections between the Jedi and the Maccabees of outer space, with some drawing connections between the name Jedi and the Hebrew word for Jew or Yehudi. So that's another connection. And there's probably many other, but this I'm gonna read this one right here. It says brotherly reconciliation and conflict. It says while Jacob and Esau eventually reunite peacefully, the story of Star Wars revolves around whether the brother Vader or Darth Vader can be redeemed rather than just destroyed, as seen in Return of the Jedi. All right, so it says ultimately Star Wars draws from a wide array of religious and mythological stories about dysfunctional families, destiny, and battle between good and evil, with the story of Jacob and Esau serve as a common thematic parallel. And and the Bible is about good and evil. But guess what? This is what people don't understand. The Most High controls both good and evil. And they never taught you this in the churches. They never taught you this, that the so-called Messiah, or not the so-called Messiah, the real Messiah was a so-called black man. You know, I know growing up, when I was young, until recent times when I got with the truth, that all I would see on movies and on churches and even was certain religions like Jehovah's Witnesses. They always showed the Lord as a so-called white man, a hippie with long hair, and one that would look like a hippie. You know what I mean? A Caucasian hippie. But let me pull that up. Okay, this is the guy, Stan Lee. I said Rob Lee, so my mistake. I'll correct that. Salaki. It was Stan Lee, right? And he said that in an interview about X-Men. Let me see if I can find it. I'll pull it up right now. Okay, there you go. I just typed in Stan Lee, X-Men, Civil Rights. It says Stan Lee created X-Men in 1963 as a gift metaphor for the civil rights movement. So what's that telling you? If you have any idea, and this matches up with the Simeon Toko story as well. But just telling you that these elites, these top elites, they hand down information to the lesser illuminary ones, such as Stan Lee, right? I can't say he wasn't like on a level. If you got that much pull to create a comedy, of course he was a director and all that, and I ain't gonna say Hollywood, but of course he had connections, right? So what's that telling you? X-Men, Magneto, Professor. Well, you know what? I'll just read a little bit of this right here. Let's just get it straight from the source. That's telling you that they know we Israelites. You know? So let's read this. It says Stan Lee created X-Men in 1963 as a gift metaphor for the civil rights movement. While primarily intending to make interesting born that way heroes, he continuously used mutants to address bigotry, discrimination, and social prejudice. Characters like Professor X, peaceful and integration, and Magneto, militant and empowered, reflect themes of social justice and equality. So Professor X represented Martin Luther King, and Magneto represented Malcolm X. You know? So I just wanted to bring that, just a little food for thought. More proof that, these stories, these allegories, and it's based off of us. We are an important people. They make entire uh, you know television shows and based off of us. And don't think you're a nobody. Don't think, man, we the sons of the living power. Even in our lower state, we have uh Edomites, which he could have been a Jake. I'm not sure whether he's an Israelite or not. But Stan Lee, you got even at our lower state, we got people uh just making television shows all based upon what we went through. Hey, the Bible, the most number one book in the world, that's us. That's our story. So this world would be a born ass world without the Israelites. All right. So we are the ones that make the world go round. First off, let me correct that. Yahweh Ba Hashem Yahweh Shah is the one that make the world go around. But he uses his tools like us to do it. Because we are a part of him. When we pass, where that spirit going? Right back to the spiritual one with him. The spirits don't die. They just multiply. Because spirits, you can't get rid of a spirit. That's like the Most High getting rid of himself. All right, that's pure energy, right? Pure energy. Energy never goes away. It just shifts. It shifts to another place. All right, but yeah, X-Men, all these movies and television shows is based upon mostly upon us. The number one Bible, the number one book in the world, the Bible. That's all Jake. It got characters in there. Of course, it got all the nations, but it's about us. It's our story going against these other nations. All right. So we're the main character, starting with the Lord, the Most High, his son, on down. That's the main character. But I hope this is edifying. Till again, Shalom.